Good morning. We're just gonna wait about 30 seconds to let people log into our webinar today. So just kind of bear with us and then we'll start here in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just get started as people are continuing to log in and just kind of do a brief intro. But today's it's a really important topic. It's 7 characteristics of a successful government contractor. So we're gonna kind of go through basically what the contracting officer or the evaluators go through when they really make a decision on who they should award a contract to, some of the things that they look at. So first, a little bit about who we are. We're the Apex Accelerator. We used to be called PTAX, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, but that's been changed. We're administered locally by the Monterey County Business Council. Apex Accelerators are funded through the Department of Defense and have been around since 1985. There's actually 97 centers across the United States and U.S. territories, and there's 7 within the state of California. And the mission of all Apex Accelerators is to promote economic growth and create employment opportunities in the local markets that they serve. And we do that by facilitating your access to the government marketplace. And although it's federally funded, it's government marketplace at a federal, state, as well as local level. This is the map of the state of California. So we're this teal area in the middle of the state, Central Coast, Central Valley. If you're in the other color-coded areas, then you're represented by one of the other Apex accelerators, and we can refer you to them, or you can just, maybe find them by just getting their names off of here. One thing I'll just quickly add too is that you will receive a copy of this presentation as well as a link so you can see the recording if you want to hear it again. So that way you don't have to worry about trying to feverishly take notes during this presentation. So this is the services that all Apex accelerators provide across the country. Basically, it's confidential client services that we provide to you. So everything that you say stays with us. It's one-on-one counseling. We want to learn about your business, what you've done in the past, what are you currently doing, and then your goals for government contracting. With that, we'll kind of then develop kind of a strategic plan with you to help you obtain success in the government marketplace. So that's pre-award assistance. We'll help you, show you where you can find opportunities that are basically, most of them are posted online. Help you review those notices that you see, because they can be very confusing when you first start taking a look at them. And then capability statements, we help you prepare those. It's a marketing piece that the government likes to see. So we can talk to you about that and help you put one together. Post-award assistance. So it's not uncommon when you have a contract anytime, anywhere, that conflicts will arise. We can kind of coach you on maybe how to handle something like that. Debriefs are something that the federal government offers so that you can basically, if you win a contract or if you don't, you can ask for a debrief to kind of understand, what you can do better in the future. And then protest. We can talk to you about that, whether it makes sense for your business or not. There's different factors you want to consider before you go down that path. So we can coach you on that. Outreach events. So there are various events that take place throughout the year, and we kind of push those out to you so that you can be aware of them. We can recommend that you attend those. Yesterday at the Naval Postgraduate School here in Monterey, there was an excellent event about construction opportunities that will be happening out there in the future. We ourselves will be hosting an event in Salinas. It's called Central Coast Procurement Expo on November 7th, where we're basically going to have a lot of the local government entities there so that you can meet with them and learn about the opportunities that they may have. Webinars, training, oftentimes at these outreach events, we're there doing training, as well as these webinars we'll continue to keep doing. Bid matching is a service that all Apex accelerators provide. Basically what it is we all use third-party vendors who have these systems that go out and basically search literally thousands of websites where governments have posted their contracting opportunities based upon a profile that we've worked with you and putting together and uploaded into their system. The system will just email you opportunities, so it saves you time from having to go to individual websites looking for opportunities. Certification programs, there's a lot of them out there, so we can kind of help you understand whether it makes sense for your business or not, and then help you understand really the qualifications that you need to meet in order to actually get certified. So a lot of people think that's pretty straightforward, but there is some nuances there you need to be aware of. So we can help coach you on that. One thing for that, I just received an email earlier this morning that somebody had asked me that they needed help in getting certified to sell to the government. One thing I want to make it really clear to anybody who's in on this webinar is that you don't need to be certified to sell to the government. Now, certification may help you. It may not, depending on what industry you're in, but you don't have to be certified to sell to the government. You might have to register with various government entities in order to sell to them, but you don't have to be certified. And one of the great things is there's no fees or commitments where your tax dollars at work, so take advantage of that. With that, I'd like to introduce a great strategic partner of ours, the Small Business Development Center, and their local director, Roger Gilbert. Roger, take it away.
Thank you, Victor. The Small Business Development Center here covers Monterey and San Benito counties, but if you are in another area, you can contact us and we'll refer you to the proper Small Business Development Center, or you can find it online as well. It is also a national program. It is free of charge to our clients. We are also funded by the federal, state, and local governments and other benefactors. And what we do essentially is provide free, high-quality advisors to help you with your small business needs, whether you're a pre-venture entrepreneur or an established business. We have a team of advisors with various types of expertise that can help you with your business, to grow your business, to hire more employees, to find funding for your business. And so you can contact us for more information and to sign up. Just go to centralcoastsbdc.com, centralcoastsbdc.com. My name again is Roger Gilbert. I'm the director for the Monterey and San Benito Small Business Development Center. And so let us know if we can be of help. And thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Roger. Yes, folks, take advantage of SBDCs. Oftentimes when we meet with you, maybe the first time, we may recommend that you either work with them first and then come back to us, or work with them and us in tandem, so we can get you to where you want to be with your goals in government contracts. So let's jump in today's presentation. So here's an agenda. First one is basically the FAR. So the things I'm going to be talking about today, they're actually written regulations that contracting officers need to follow in making a determination of whether to do business with you or not. And then we're going to talk about adequate financial resources, how to be able to comply with the required schedule, satisfactory past performance record, integrity and business ethics, organization experience and management, equipment and facilities, and be otherwise qualified. Those are the 7 characteristics, and I'll go into each one of these in detail. So financial resources. So the government wants to know that you have the ability to be able to execute on the contract. So they want to know that you have adequate working capital. You know, if they give you a contract, do you have the resources in it to do that? So what you want to do is make sure that you have established a relationship with the bank, so that you may need a line of credit with the bank in order so that you can process the order, and while you're waiting to get paid, you have enough cash on hand to continue doing business with other customers. They will make sure that you have good credit record with other vendors. So that's important. And then this next one, consider retaining a factor. That's something that is kind of as a last resort. I don't know how much you really know about factoring, but basically factors are basically institutions that basically will lend you money, but then they'll take a large portion of the proceeds of the profits that you would receive on a contract. So it's something that, as a last resort, you may want to use a factor. So keep that in mind. Establish and maintain good risk rating for insurance and bonding. So that's really important. You'll see in some contracts that the government has that you'll be required to show proof of insurance and bonding. Especially if you're in the construction industry, bonding is a requirement, and that could literally limit the size of contracts that you could pursue. So they kind of fit together. Bonding, as an example, really relies upon your credit record, your book of business, those types of things. So it's really important to always be on top of your financing. Have a budget and cash flow forecast. So again, when you're looking for establishing credit, obtaining bonding, this is the things that they want to look at. And then part of that, of course, is just include a financial plan in your business plan. Oftentimes when we talk to somebody, or Rogers Group talks to somebody, they'll say, do you have a business plan? People will say, well, yes, I have a business plan. But then when we look at that business plan, there really isn't anything there as far as the financial plan. A big thing that we see is that people will overestimate their sales that they project that they'll have, but there's really no plan of how they're going to achieve those revenues. So it's really critical that you do that. Having a financial plan, and it's something that you want to continue to review on an annual basis. So scheduling. So the government wants to know that you're on top of scheduling, that you can basically deliver on whatever it is that they want to buy from you. So know what you can and can't do under various circumstances. So one thing that I can say is that the government understands that things happen. A really good example that we all can remember is when COVID happened. It really slowed things down, really interrupted the supply chain. So the government understands that. But now that we're kind of back to more of a normalcy, you want to make sure that you can meet the schedule that is indicated on the solicitation or the contract. Last thing you want to do is basically kind of say, yes, we can deliver this on a certain date, when you really know that it's impossible for you to do that. Keep records of required and actual delivery date or completion dates. So that'll really help you to understand when you see that there are dates tied to a contract, whether you realistically can actually meet those requirements. So by you keeping records of that, you'll know that if the government places an order with you, that it's going to take you, say, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever the time frame may be, in order for you to deliver that. As long as you communicate to the government that that's the way it'll be, and they agree with that, then that's fine. But last thing you want to do is basically say, yes, we can get that in 2 weeks, when you know that you can't, and next thing you know, you're delivering the product or service late. This next one is establish a method of scheduling multiple orders. So again, you're gonna have a variety of customers, not just the government customers, so make sure that you have a method of being able to schedule those so that everything arrives when you say it will, or if it's a service that you can basically deliver that service in the time frame that you said that you can. Know how to prioritize conflicting delivery commitments. So it kind of goes with the previous bullet point, but you want to be able to prioritize. And as an example, you may have like 2 shipments coming in at the same time, and do you have room, like say in your warehouse, to take in all that inventory? Or the same thing goes is like if you're trying to get it out of your warehouse, how are you doing that? So make sure that you have a plan for that. Similar to what I just mentioned is be prepared to add resources when necessary. So again, if you do have to have various shipments coming in at the same time, do you have basically like a temporary warehouse where you can rent some space to store it at before you actually ship it out? So make sure that you have that. It could be that you might need to bring in some extra human resources in order to process it. So make sure that you're prepared for anything like that. With all that, saying all this, is that you may want to look at investing in project manager or scheduling software so that you can basically have it much more organized, have it at your fingertips so that you know exactly how to schedule it properly and tell your customers this is when you can expect delivery from us. Past performance. This one is huge, and so you'll see the very first bullet point is really critical. Is the single most important factor in vendor evaluation. I was talking to someone the other day, and I mentioned to them that this is the valuation factor that everybody looks at. It doesn't really even matter whether you're selling to a private sector or to the government. Nobody really wants to be your first customer, but they all want to know is who have you sold this product or service to in the past? And if you can't back that up, then it makes it much more difficult. But this is what the government wants to do. This next bullet point says references will be checked, and it's your most valuable asset. So oftentimes, and actually not even oftentimes, the majority of times, when you're submitting an offer, they're going to ask you to provide with your proposal or your quote minimum of 3 references where you sold product or service to in the past. They're going to want to know who was the customer, maybe what was the name of the contract opportunity, what's the name of an individual they can contact, and what's the phone number and email of that individual that they can reach out to check that reference. Heard that. The next bullet point is make sure that you get your customers' permission to list them as references. So what you want to do is go through your customers and then know who's going to provide you with a good reference. Contact them and let them know that, look, I'm going to use you as a reference. Are you okay with that? And you're probably going to get contacted either on the phone or the email from potential customer. So be prepared for that. One of the things that we recommend to people too is that, don't wait till a opportunity arises before you reach out to prospective reference. Oftentimes people will say, yeah, I'll give you a reference, but oftentimes they just don't do it quickly. And in some cases, you'll see that actually your references need to basically send their reference directly to the government. So you just can't list them on a form and submit that. That reference actually has to fill out a form and then submit it to where they've been directed to themselves. So you want to make sure that they your references, clearly understand that. CPARs. CPARs is a database that the federal government uses. It's called the Contractor Performance Assessment Reporting System, commonly known as CPARs. And once you've completed a contract with the federal government, you're given a rating and it's input into this system. Contracting officers will look at that to see how you performed on previous contracts with the federal government. So one of the things that you can do is that you can look at your CPARs, and if you're in disagreement of the rating that you received, you can kind of go back to your customer and say, hey, I disagree with that. You can have a discussion and hopefully you can get them to increase the rating that you provide. One of the things I'll say about it that I learned from a friend of mine who was a contract officer in the Navy for over 20 years is that typically the contracting officers don't give a very high rating or a very low rating, because when they do that, it creates extra work for them. Then they have to write a justification of why they gave somebody a rating of excellent or why they gave somebody a rating that was very poor. So typically it's kind of in the middle, so it doesn't hurt you. This next one says, keep a list of all orders, required date and actual date. So again, that's one of the things that they may ask you that. It kind of goes together with the references, but keep a record of that. This next one is important, is that because it all reflects on your past performance. Immediately report delays and request a modification, a mod. Things happen. Again, the government understands that things happen, but don't try to hide the fact that something has happened. Immediately report that there's going to be a delay, and then request a modification. That you might call it a change order, but you want to keep that communication going with your contracting officer. They understand that things happen, but you want to report it. If you hide it and then you deliver your product or service late, then that can have a negative impact on your rating. So what you want to do is report it, request that mod, then everything is fine. This next one is important. It says get permission to ship or perform early. You know, you may think that by delivering early helps the customer, but they may not be ready for it. There may be other say contractors that need to do their work before you come in and do your work. Or it could be that, you know, you want to deliver a product to a warehouse, but the warehouse is full. So you're causing problems. So get permission if you want to ship early or perform early. And then this last one is on-time delivery must not jeopardize quality. So again, it kind of goes back to reporting delays. If there's a deadline that you want to meet, make sure that if you can't deliver on the quality that you've promised the government, then you're hurting yourself by delivering products that haven't been say approved or inspected, etc. Or, you know, you're providing a service, but it's not to your expectations nor to the customers. So make sure that quality is first and foremost when you're delivering any kind of product or service. So integrity and business ethics. So the government looks at this and they maintain this first bullet points debarment. And it says, do not get onto the ineligible list. So the government does punish people, punish companies, actually, I guess is a better term, for that company doing something that was just not good. Either it had to do with business ethics, or they, again, some of those things like they said they were going to deliver on a certain date and they didn't deliver for a couple months afterwards or something like that. So the government does have a formal process, it's called debarment, and they maintain a list, and the contracting officers go on that list and see whether or not your company is on that list or not. With that, don't make false statements. And this is really important too, because sometimes I would say it's someone who maybe does business development sales that makes these false statements that, yes, we can do that, or we can deliver on such and such date, and they really can't. But it's the company that gets punished, not the individual. So make sure that your team aren't making any false statements. With that, what you want to do to kind of avoid that is establish a company code of ethics and a standard of conduct, and teach it to all employees. So again, that code of ethics, standards of conduct, you want to make sure that everybody understands that. It's printed out, you give it to them, you review it from time to time. If you find out that someone is making like misleading statements or something, you want to pull them aside and let them know how important it is that behavior can't continue, because they're jeopardizing the integrity of the company. So again, it's super important. Maintain a culture of avoiding appearance of impropriety. So it kind of goes along with everything I've just been saying, is that you want to make sure that everybody clearly understand the impact of false statements or just misleading statements or exaggeration, those types of things. So make sure that everybody clearly understands that. This last one, religious affiliation is not considered in government contracting. Your record is. So some people, are very proud of their religion, and they think it's impressive with the government that you say that, you're part of whatever religion it might be. With the government, they don't really care about that. It's your past performance. That number one evaluation factor that they're looking at is what's most important. Management and controls. And you can see this first bullet point, and that's why I've actually put the FAR reference there. Part 9.104-1 covers a lot. And again, you can actually, like on that one of the first slides that had the FAR, where it actually lists all these things that I'm talking about. So you can actually dive deeper into this. But it's actually the regulations that contract officers need to follow. But in management controls, first, they want to look at the organization, the structure, reporting relationships, control. Oftentimes when you're submitting a request for a proposal, in response to a request for proposal, they'll want to say, okay, show us your organizational chart, who reports to who, those types of things. They'll want to see your experience. How long have you done this kind of work? The products and service, those types of things. Oftentimes, for the experience, they may even ask to see like the resumes of the key individuals that are shown on the org chart, like who's going to be the project manager, what is their experience in doing that, and they want to document that by seeing their resume. They'll look at the accounting systems. Do you have adequate financial management system and controls in your accounting systems? And at some point, depending if you start doing a lot of work with the federal government, they may even come back and audit your accounting system to make sure that's in compliance with what the government wants to see. Operations to look at is, who controls the process. Again, it's that org chart, who reports to who, etc. Technical skills or ability to attain them. So I mentioned that per experience, not only they want to see that the company has that, But again, they may want to see the technical skills of certain individuals. Now, the government also understands that as a company and for a specific opportunity, you may not have that, but you might be able to say, well, look, I'm going to bring in this subcontractor or this consultant. Here's their resume, that they can actually meet the requirements of this technical skill that's required in this contracting opportunity. We're going to do 80% of the work, but this individual or this company is going to come in and do that 20% that's part of this opportunity. And then this last one kind of goes back with the previous one with ethics, but train all your employees to comply with your policies and procedures. So this that standard of conduct, etc. But make sure they all clearly are trained and understand your company's policies and procedures and how it can apply to management control. There's a little bit more here on management controls. So other factors to consider as appropriate in the evaluation. So these are other things that the government will want to see from you in your proposal. Do you have a production control procedures in place? Do you have a system and you can basically show them that this is how we do things and we have controls over that. We inspect the product as it's going through manufacturing at these various milestone steps in the process. Property control systems, do you have systems in place that if you are selling something to the government that's sensitive in nature, do you have controls that things aren't being stolen, those types of things? Quality assurance measures. So again, depending on what it is that you're selling to the government, especially if it's like a manufactured product that you're selling to them, they want to make sure that there are quality inspections taking place throughout the process of you manufacturing that product. That it's being inspected as it's going through the manufacturing process, and then it's inspected one last time before it leaves your facility. And then, of course, there might be another inspection once it arrives at the government customers. This next one is upcoming cybersecurity requirements, the CMMC 2.0. Right now, CMMC 2.0 is going to apply to you selling to the Department of Defense. Cybersecurity, as you see in the news constantly, is super important. All companies should be basically working to improve what's called their cyber hygiene. The message that we're hearing from the federal government is that with the cybersecurity requirements is that it will be implemented first with the Department of Defense, but it's just a matter of time where all the federal agencies will put in place similar requirements, because the cost of dealing with breaches is so high that it just makes more sense to do that. And we can coach you on CMMC 2.0 and tell you where you need to go and all those kinds of things too. But it's something that really needs to be on your radar. Safety programs, again, depending on what industry that you're in, that's really important. Like it says here, be sure to comply with OSHA standards, whatever industry. If you're in construction, I've seen it where with your proposal, you need to submit basically a safety plan. You need to show that you have like a safety inspector that's going to be on the job site every single day, and requirements of that person can't be somebody who maybe is like your lead foreman or project manager. It actually needs to be a separate individual. They may need to show that they've undergone their own safety training in order to comply with that. So as you're again going through and you're reviewing solicitations, opportunity notices, it'll detail whether you need that or not. Part of that is that, we'll tell people, look at opportunities that you see out there, even if they might be like in another state, just to kind of see the pattern. So that way when, so you'll see, as an example, if you see that a safety plan is required, a safety person is there, a quality assurance person needs to be on the job site on a daily basis, you can start working on that, because when the contract comes and it's in your own backyard, you're gonna need to have that in place. If you start trying to scramble at the last minute to put that together, you could actually miss the deadline of when you need to submit your proposal. Some of the examples of some of these management controls, like production control, quality assurance, property, is like over short damage, inventory procedures, testing, commissioning or debugging, customer service, all these kinds of things are good ways for you to, good examples of some of these kind of management and controls. Okay, equipment and facilities. So this first one is like, there's an opportunity out there, but do you have a plan for acquiring and maintaining the equipment and facilities you're gonna need to execute on this contract? So it could be that because the contract is maybe larger than anything that you've ever done before, you need to be able to articulate that this is gonna be our plan. Should we be awarded the contract to acquire, the needed equipment, or facilities to do that. You may need a larger production facility. One thing about like equipment, as an example, is that you're seeing that oftentimes nowadays, more so than in the past, where you need a specific piece of equipment on a certain project, well, you can go out and lease that or rent that and find an operator for that, just for that project. So that way you're not incurring the cost of purchasing it. And once you purchase it and the job is over, that piece of equipment just kind of sits there collecting dust. But have that plan in place that you can understand that what's going to be the cost to rent it, lease it, etc. Have an operator, etc. Have a plan of how do you get what you need. Are you going to have a warehouse and maintain inventory, or are you going to do just-in-time delivery of a product or service? So make sure that, again, you've thought this out and you can explain that to the contracting opportunity, that yes, we have a warehouse, we maintain an inventory that we can meet all of our customers' needs. Or you say, well, look, we're going to do it just in time, so we'll be able to deliver it to you as you need it. This next one is that equipment facilities, it kind of goes back to some of that technical expertise that I mentioned earlier, but consider teaming with a subcontractor for equipment and facilities. So again, the contract may require 10 different deliverables. You can provide 8 in-house, and then you can subcontract those last 2 that you don't have, so that you bring in a subcontractor that has the equipment and the operators to operate that equipment, etc. Same thing goes with facilities. So consider teaming. Don't pass on an opportunity if you can't do everything. It happens every day with all kinds of industries. Oftentimes people think of contractors and subcontractors as just construction, but subcontracting happens in every kind of industry that's out there. Certifications related to locations. So you may be required to have a certain certification in a certain, say, state or something like that. And it's more a certification of operating your business. So as an example, do you have a construction license in order to build something in a certain state? If you don't have that, then you can't do work in that state. So make sure that you have something like that. Adequate insurance on your equipment and facilities. Last thing you want is if something happens, you know, we see in the news that the Gulf Coast is going to be hit by a hurricane, so there could be a lot of flooding. So, you know, do you have adequate insurance in order to, you know, meet any business interruptions as a result of something like that? Do you have adequate security measures for any kind of loss prevention? So again, if you have inventory, do you have security measures to prevent theft, either by employees or by somebody who's not an employee of the company? But you know, do you have the proper security measures? And then with that, you know, maybe you might realize that yes, there's no way to stop all the say theft that happens, but do you have a plan and at least to minimize it to the point where it's not a huge interruption of your business? And then be prepared for a pre-award audit. That is where the government has looked at your offer, they like it, and they notify you and they say, yes, we want to give this contract to you, but prior to us awarding you the contract, we want to come out and do an audit and make sure that you have some of these things in place that are going to be really important and the delivery of the product or service that we want to award you a contract on. So be prepared for that. And then this is the last one of the 7 factors, is otherwise qualified and eligible. You know, really, what does it mean? So I'll just give you some examples. Is, you know, professional license and credentials. So again, think of like, again, if you're a construction contractor, are you licensed? If you're an architect or an engineer, do you have a license? Or if you're say you want to sell legal services to the government, you know, do you have a license to practice law? Those types of things. Security clearance, you know, it could be that depending on where the product or service may be delivered is, you may need to have a security clearance. And that can be a whole topic in itself, so I won't go into that deeply, but that may be something that, you know, that you'll need to obtain. Oftentimes too is that with security clearance, depending on the nature of what the work will be, the government will say, we want to award this contract to you, but before you'll get the notice to proceed, your team will have to be undergo a security clearance, and we'll do that, and it'll take probably a month. Once that happens, then you'll get the notice to proceed, and then you can start doing the work. Other types of security clearance, like facility clearances, are more difficult to obtain, and basically you need to be sponsored by someone who already has one. So adequate personnel with training and supervision. So again, it just kind of goes back to, do you have the team in place that has the training, and do you have the individuals who can supervise those people? Again, they may ask to see their resumes, those types of things. Like I mentioned earlier with the safety, is that they may want to see that somebody has undergone like a course in safety, so that way they can show that to the contracting team that yes, in fact, this individual has gone through this safety training, here's their certificate, etc. They may want to, if the socioeconomic status and equal employment opportunity compliance, so the opportunity maybe has been set aside for, say, a veteran-owned business or a woman-owned business. So that's something that they'll want to check out. So if there's a set aside specifically for that, say those socioeconomic groups, say it's a woman-owned small business, and you may be a woman-owned small business, but if you're not certified by the SBA as a woman-owned small business, your offer will be rejected. So they'll go back and check to make sure, in fact, that you are who you say you are. Equal employment opportunity compliance, they may come back and say, okay, we'd like to see documents on your payroll that you're in compliance with EEO regulations. And then, depending on the size of the contract and the size of the contractor, they may want to see this growth plan for the effect of this contract on the firm. So per that, it could be that, your annual sales revenues are typically like $500,000. And all of a sudden, you're want to be awarded a contract worth $5 million. They may want to come back and say, okay, well, let's see your growth plan for this effect on your company. Do you have, like some of the things we talked about earlier, do you have the financial resources to meet the demands of this much larger contract than you ever performed on? Do you have access to hire the personnel that it's going to take to meet all the deliverables of this contract? So that's something that they may come back and ask you for. So with this, what we've talking about, these 7 factors, that's actually federal marketplace. It's a federal regulation, but there are state and local variations. I just want to cover this a little bit before we wrap it up, and I take some questions that you may have. But each state, local, and regional government passes its own legislation with its own vendor requirements. So they may have something similar. They may probably have less regulations than the federal government has, but just be aware that they may have somewhat different regulations or rules that they follow. Preference for local vendors. One of the things that in the state of California is that the federal government can set aside an opportunity, as an example, that says, we're going to set this opportunity aside that only certified women-owned businesses can submit an offer on. In the state of California, that practice is illegal. What a lot of local governments have done is that they have created what are called preference programs. And so a lot of them, I'd say even most, will give preferences for local vendors, and basically meaning that if there's a contract opportunity and the company that submits an offer is not local, if a local company is within a certain percentage point, a common number is within 5% of that other lower offer, they will then give the opportunity to the local vendor so that they can help the local economy. In some cases, you'll also see that they'll have preferences for various socioeconomic groups, such as women, minority, LGBTQ, those types of things. Again, it's not across the board, so each one is different. So it's just something you'll have to learn about as you're looking at opportunities. Some of these local governments use electronic registration systems that charge a fee to register. It's unfortunate, but it's just a business decision that you'll have to make of whether you want to pay the fee to see all the documents you need to submit an offer, and etc. Most of the time, it's not necessarily a fee to register, but it's more of a fee to access those documents that provides you all the information you need to submit an offer. It's unfortunate, but again, it's just kind of a business decision. Be alert to special requirements such as bonds, insurance, and employment pay scales. So you'll see that again, especially in construction, this bonding, it's by regulation, you need to have bonding if you're working on public works projects. Same thing goes with insurance. And it's really common that with a lot of projects, especially if it has any kind of federal money in it, that you'll have to pay what are called Davis-Bacon wages. One thing to understand about that is that all companies that will be submitting an offer will need to meet those pay scales. So it's not like they're singling you out, and even though you pay your company typically, pay your employees typically less than Davis-Bacon scale, again, everybody will have to, so just kind of keep that in mind. In smaller entities, meaning smaller government, just be alert to the different organizational culture. So in some cases, with small local governments, they really may not even have like a formal procurement department outside of, say, construction, the public works. So for a lot of the smaller purchases that local government makes, it might just be individuals who have a credit card that they have the authorization to go out and buy products and services. So you just kind of need to learn how each one of these local governments operate and understand that. And then you want to get on their radar, ask them, hey, do you have a database that I can, enter my company information in? So when you're looking to buy something, you can find me, or you can at least, I mentioned at the very beginning, capability statement, send that to somebody so they can know that you're out there, you have experience, and that you can sell them the goods or services that they require. With that, I think, yeah, here's some takeaways. I'll just kind of read these. Even though your company is very good at doing what you do, these 7 characteristics are critical to the federal government customer and its prime contractor. So again, these are regulations. They're going to look at this, so keep that in mind. Non-federal customers have similar concerns. They use different terminology and procedures to evaluate your company for capabilities and for eligibility. So again, think about all these things, because again, even if it's just a private sector company, a good buyer is going to want to clearly understand all these factors about your company. Update your business plan and capability statement to help you stay focused and give the customers confidence. Again, the capability statement is something that we can help you with. And what you want to do is introduce your company to other potential customers, whether it's private sector customers or government customers, so that when an opportunity arises, you're top of mind, and they'll reach out to you and say, hey, can you send me an offer or a pricing or estimate on our opportunity? Be sure you have a clear, concise, brief statement of your established capabilities and be able to recite it. Basically, it's your elevator speech. You're going to go to events, you're going to meet people, and the first thing they're going to say is, tell me about your company. What do you do? And you need to be able to just short and sweet, tell them exactly what it is that you do. What is the product or service that you deliver, and why should they pick you over somebody else? This last one, many certifications and registrations are available. Do not focus on collecting them until you need them. Go out and sell some product. So again, one of the big mistakes we see with a lot of people is they start their business and they want to go out and get all these certifications. But again, you need to remember that it's your past performance, which is the most important thing that anybody wants to know about your company. So you want to go out and sell some product. When a government customer is evaluating you, they want to see that you've delivered the product or service you want to sell to them to somebody else. And it could be that your customers are all private sector clients, which is fine. More importantly, they want to see that you've delivered that product and service to somebody else. Ideally, if it's another government entity, that's fantastic. But if you don't have that, then they want to look at the fact that you've sold that product service to the private sector. With that, if anybody has any questions, you can just drop them in the chat, and I'll answer those for you. And as I mentioned early in the presentation, you'll receive a copy of these slides, and then also a link to the recording, so you can actually, listen to this presentation again if you'd like. So I'm just kind of give it a moment while people are feverishly typing in their questions in the chat or the Q&A. Okay, so we got one brave soul is that asking a question. Oh, man. Let's see if I can read this. So somebody wants to know, this is a really good question, could you please address what the consequences are if you mess up on a contract? As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that you want to do is you want to always be communicating with the contract officer that's assigned to your contract. They understand that things happen. So you kind of mess up, but you want to, as soon as you mess up, you want to reach out to them and say, hey, my team made a mistake. It's going to cost us some time to fix it. That's what the contracting officer wants to know. The contracting officer, they make mistakes too, so they understand that. The worst thing you could possibly do is try to cover up that mistake, and then the contracting officer finds out down the road that this happened, and then that's what could give you a bad rating. One of the things about, I mentioned earlier, debarment. When I first heard that term, I thought that if you were debarred from selling to the federal government, it was like forever, you wouldn't sell to the government. But typically, debarment means you screwed up, and it was significant enough that you got on that ineligible list. But typically, the punishment might be that, okay, for the next 6 months, year, 2 years, you can't sell to the federal government, but it's not forever. So hopefully, and the idea is hopefully that the company that was debarred learns from the mistake and they won't do that again. Because there's enough positives that were seen when they were awarded the contract that the government may want to still go back to them. But again, that's basically what it is. The biggest thing is communicate with your contracting officer because they understand that things do happen. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, but anything I covered, just reach out to your counselor and they can kind of take it a little, like maybe a little deeper dive in explaining some of this to you. But again, as I mentioned, and you'll see on this one of those first few slides, these are actually federal acquisition regulations that are documented, and you've got the number there. You can actually go back and look these up if you want to. But it's just good business practice, and the government just wants to make sure that the companies that they buy from are just been vetted. With that, thank you very much, and then we'll see you soon.